Okay, welcome to the April 15th edition of Bar Talk. I am Angela Armstrong, the Executive Director of the Maine State Bar Association, and we are very lucky to have ABA President Bill Bay joining us today. Before we get going though, I'm going to, excuse me, go through a couple of updates that you can see on the screen here. Really, the primary stuff, we've got several big events going on at the end of April into May and June. You can see that there are some links there if you want to register for those programs. Hopefully we'll see you there. And then we typically do a highlight of a benefit. And I'm going to highlight the lawyer referral service today because we really need attorneys. We have a new director, Celine Boyle, who is an attorney and does a great job with intake. She's been doing this for years. So you're really, if you sign up for the lawyer referral service, you're getting, we're sending you good cases. We're not sending you things that you don't want. We also have a new lawyer referral platform called Case. It's really streamlined everything and made it a lot easier to use. So please, if you have any interest at all, we'd really love to grow this service because we have a lot of great calls coming in, but we don't have enough attorneys to send them to. So you can go right online on the website to join. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Celine. So I'm going to turn things over to President Susan Fonts, and she will introduce President Bay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Fonts, current president of the MSBA. I am very excited to welcome President Bill Bay from the American Bar Association today. Just to give you some background information, he is a partner at the national law firm of Thompson Coburn. He has been active with the ABA for many years and has worn many different hats in that organization. He has been a member of the House of Delegates for more than 20 years. He also served as chair of the House of Delegates. He is a fellow of the American Bar Foundation. He served on the American Bar Association Board of Governors and chair of the Finance Committee. He served as chair of the litigation section. He also co-chaired the Practice Forward initiative, which went on during the pandemic to protect the future of the profession. He also has chaired the ABA Day Planning Committee chair. So we're really excited to have him today. For all of you guys joining us today, obviously the rule of law has been a topic of interest. So we are happy to hear from him and happy to hear what's happening on a national level with regard to this issue. Welcome, President Bay.
Well, good to see everybody. I can already tell one difference. Susan's office is completely clean. Angela looks clean. Mine looks like an archaeological dig. I have people come up and say, I'm trying to identify what's in your desk. Okay, stop. But good morning. I appreciate the opportunity and to talk with you on this month's edition of Bar Talk. I mean, you guys are one of the only bars that does this. I think it's pretty cool. Thank you to President Susan Fonts and President-elect Rachel Oken and Executive Director Angela Armstrong and everybody, the leaders and members of the Maine State Bar are on the call. I guess I want to start by saying thanks for serving. It's a sacrifice to be involved in the bar, but I appreciate it as well as your commitment to the rule of law in your communities. Thank you for the work you do every day. It really matters, and especially now more than ever. I have been to Portland, Maine. Somebody asked me, I said, yeah, I had my informal law school reunion. No, I didn't go to school in Maine, but we had an informal law school reunion in Portland during the pandemic. About 30 of us came up, had a great time, got to connect with one of my longtime ABA friends, Dave Soley, who toured me around town. So he's waving over there. I even had a case there in Maine, in Portland, with Judge Woodcock in federal court. So it was interesting, all good. And it was fun. I mean, so it's great you have these monthly touch points and I guess check-ins to discuss matters of the moment, both the issues and the success. I really like the open communication. It's, like I said, it's a little bit different than other bars do, so I like it. Let me say a few words about where we are as a profession and where the ABA is. I'm sure it's not anything new to you guys, but we're really members and leaders of a profession facing profound changes and challenges. We're seeking to be relevant to lawyers who see the world, the profession, and bar associations differently than we did. That means we got to change our methods, like this communication thing. Who would have thought of doing this 10 years ago? How we communicate, how people become involved, how we're organized, and how we deliver value has to be changed. And the challenge of change is an important one. I often quote a friend of mine, Pat Gillette, who says change is like heaven. Everybody wants to go there, but they don't want to go there now. And that's really the bar world we're inheriting and that we have right now. But the other challenges that we have to confront is really a justice system and a profession which are under duress and facing challenges that threaten our very existence and the bedrock principles underlying it, principles we've followed for nearly 250 years. Make no mistake, there are attacks on our courts and our profession. The frequency and intensity really evidence a pattern. Elected and appointed officials have called for the impeachment of judges who have ruled contrary to what the administration's requested. If a court issues a decision the administration doesn't agree with, the judge is targeted. If a lawyer represents parties in a dispute with the administration, or if a lawyer represents parties in a case the administration doesn't like, lawyers are targeted. When we spoke out in support of bedrock principles, the government official even targeted the ABA by instructing its lawyers not to attend ABA meetings or participate as speakers. We've seen it from the FTC. We've seen it from the Justice Department. These actions, I think, really highlight the escalating governmental efforts to interfere with fair and impartial courts, the right to counsel and due process, and the freedoms of speech and association in our country. Our courts cannot deliver justice if they are themselves threatened. For the first time I can ever remember, a president of the United States calls for impeachment of a federal judge who's just ruled against him. Officials are making blunt statements that suggest they're above the law and the courts should not interfere with what the executive branch is doing. Other government officials are suggesting they will ignore judges' rulings. Law firms are being attacked for who they represent despite ethical rules that make it clear in Rule 1.2 that a lawyer's representation of a client does not, and emphasize does not, constitute an endorsement of the client's political, economic, social, or moral views or activities. We've read, of course, and you know, the government's investigating 20 law firms for supporting diversity and the elimination of bias in our courts and profession. They're making similar threats to bar associations and medical associations. We cannot let others control the narrative. At the ABA, we are not going to retreat from Goal 3, which seeks to eliminate bias and support diversity in our judicial system and our profession. These and other problems really and issues have arrived at our doorstep. This is, I think, the most important time for our profession that I can ever recall. There are attacks and foundation of our courts and profession. I believe that every lawyer and every bar association must speak out when our courts and profession are attacked. These kinds of statements and attacks on our courts have to stop. And the ABA has led in those efforts. We've decided to stand and speak out. We've called on the profession to do so, and the profession has responded. The governing boards of bar associations throughout the US and the world have spoken. They account for more than 5 million lawyers. There's some overlap, I get it, but it still represents an incredible number. The bar is united in a way that I have not seen it before. And if there's any doubt about what you should do personally, I mean, I frequently reference the report of the Chief Justice of the US Supreme Court written in 2024 year-end report. And he said, within the past year, we have also seen the need for state and federal bar associations to come to the defense of a federal district judge whose decisions in a high-profile case prompted an elected official to call for her impeachment. Attempts to intimidate judges for their rulings in cases are inappropriate and should be vigorously opposed. Those are his words, not mine, really just in January, either December or January, almost prescient, okay? It's a part of an oath that every lawyer takes to maintain the respect due to courts of justice and judicial officers. I think that's a direct call to every lawyer and bar association. Defending liberty, pursuing justice deserves no less. And that's why at the ABA, we've consistently and for many years been supportive of the rule of law and issued a number of statements, more than we have in a number of years in the last few months. And of course, you know, the Chief Justice issued a terse but pointed reminder of the issue of impeachment just a month ago when he said, for more than 200 years, it's been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreements concerning judicial decisions. The normal appellate review process exists for that purpose. I know everyone doesn't agree with that judges should not be impeached for a decision they don't like, and people don't agree that lawyers should ignore their oath with respect to clients. I mean, I've heard it, and we've gotten a lot of criticism. The political class trots out the same argument it makes all the time to avoid having to deal with the substance of the conduct. They claim we didn't speak 3 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. A lot of that narrative is just false. The ABA has spoken out 15 times in the last 8 years, criticizing comments that have come from Republicans and Democrats. It is wrong regardless of who says it. But let me be clear on this point. It doesn't matter whether you've ever spoken out. There is never a wrong time to stand up for what is right. And if you've been a parent who's raised kids like I have, you know how wrong the arguments of the political class are. My wife and I raised 3 kids. When we failed to say the right thing to our kids on one day, we didn't decide we'll never speak again. We got up the next day and resolved to do the right thing. And today is the next day. The rule of law is more important than our differences, whether you represent plaintiffs or defendants, what political party you are, where you live, it's a red state or a blue state or all the ones in between, or whatever you do. The ABA is here to help. So is the Maine State Bar. If you want to know what other organizations have said, we have that on a site on our website with hundreds of statements from bar associations around the world. The Maine State Bar Association is listed there. Your statement's there. I believe this is our time. This is our moment as a profession to remind lawyers in our communities why our profession and bar associations are important, to do what is right even in the face of difficult circumstances and risks. Even when we're discouraged, never forget there are opportunities. I believe this can be our finest hour as a profession. We need you guys, we need everybody. As I've said several times, there are clear choices facing our profession. We can choose to remain silent and allow these acts to continue, or we can stand for the rule of law and the values we hold dear. We are calling upon the entire profession to speak out against intimidation. We acknowledge there are risks to standing up and addressing important issues. I can give you personal experiences, and some of you can. Judges and elected officials know as well. But if the ABA and the Maine State Bar and other state and local bar associations and lawyers do not speak, who is going to speak for the organized bar? Who's going to speak for the judiciary? Who will protect our system of justice? If we don't speak now, when will we speak? The American Bar has chosen to stand and speak. The Maine State Bar has chosen to speak. Now is the time for every part of our profession, not just the associations, but the lawyers, to speak with one voice. Thank you for standing. Thank you for speaking. I'm pleased that the Maine State Bar Association members are also leaders and members of the ABA. And if you're not a member, no better time to join than now, let me say, because you can do both. They're not exclusive. You can do both. But beyond membership, I want to thank you for what you're doing in your state and communities. You help to make justice real in the programs you do. You make a difference in people's lives. It really matters. So I'm glad to answer questions. I don't know whether they're going to the chat, Angela, or what. Be nice with questions, but I'll try to answer all I can. The questions are easy. The answers are tough. Come on.
So I do have some questions that came in ahead of time, and if anybody else has questions, please put them in the chat. The first one I have is, what is the ABA doing regarding the apparent ethical violations by some of the DOJ attorneys before the courts in defense of the Trump administration?
I think formally, we have not ever formally made complaints about lawyers to disciplinary boards. That's what individual lawyers do. That's happened in the past. I'm sure it'll happen in the future. I think what we try to do is highlight where there are, what the Code of Professional Responsibility does, and where it is that actions are violative of that. And that's why I really highlighted 1.2. I mean, law firms are being attacked for who they represent when the code says exactly that is exactly can't happen. Otherwise, I mean, if we do that, who's going to represent people charged with crimes? Who's going to get involved in all these other contentious things if you always are taking on the conduct of your client? I mean, this is a John Adams moment. This is, I mean, classic. We've heard all the stories. That's what this is. And I think we've got to keep reminding people, but that's where we're at on that particular issue.
What can attorneys individually and as a group, such as the Maine State Bar Association, do both publicly and more privately to support and protect the rule of law, respecting the judiciary's role and push back against pressures from the federal executive to limit people's rights to counsel?
I mean, I think writing your legislators, I think letters, op-eds are really important. I know some people are planning protests. Those can work if they're effective. But the toughest challenge is really talking to our neighbors, talking to people who go to the grocery store, I mean, I shop at Costco and Sam's, or people that you meet there and you go to places of worship, your churches. How do you explain to them why the rule of law matters? They're getting hit with so many things. They don't really completely grasp the importance of this. And so we've got to personalize it, why it matters that people should have the lawyer of their choice, why it should be that we can't have opinion polls where the judges don't do the will of the people, as if we're going to do an opinion poll or something. If so, everybody would be convicted probably. I mean, and so you've got to personalize it. That's a real challenge right now. That's a real challenge for us.
Is there a collection of op-eds and letters to the editor that have been published on this issue, at least within the ABA?
I don't know whether, I'm not sure there is. We get daily reports. I could probably get some. Probably it's more like articles than we see. I mean, you could probably Google and find a number of these. I know we have the statements of the bars, though. It's on the Center for Bar Leadership, and we can get the link to Angela. It's the ABA Center for Bar Leadership is all the statements. There is one statement we drafted that we began with 55 bars that supported that, and it's now over 100. But we also have featured, it's not just everybody agreeing to one statement. We've allowed the bars throughout the world in the US to issue their own statements, and they're all posted there. So you can hear what people are talking about: rule of law, independence of the profession, independence of the judiciary, diversity. All of them are there. And I think if doing an op-ed, that's a good piece to get a lot of great ideas on what you want to say.
Have you had any contact with large law firms which have capitulated to the government?
I have had contact with them. It's and I know there's a lot of people say that's the big story. That's the big story. Why have the big law firms done X and done Y? I mean, I can't tell you why. I'm not into their decision making. I don't think that's the story. I think the story is, why is the Trump administration doing this? Number one, and number two, how the bar is responding. That's the story. When I have not seen the bar united like it has been for years and years on the rule of law, as evidenced by the statements. And I frequently tell when media people it's not the first story, it's these last two. Why is the administration doing this, and how the bar is responding? How the bar is responding, and especially with legislators, obviously that's a key. They need to hear from us. Okay, they need to hear from us.
We've seen in the news that the ABA is losing millions of dollars from federal resources. Can you comment on what ABA programs have been affected by the withdrawal of federal funds, and is there any plan to continue those programs?
I mean, we were a recipient of grant funds, both for doing rule of law internationally, where we train judges and lawyers to do in 60 countries do work. It's something that's been going on for 35 years. Justice Stephen Breyer chairs our group that does this. That's a subject of litigation. We were part of a group that filed suit. That's going on right now. And then we're also do work for unaccompanied children who are seeking asylum at the border. It's something we've done for decades as well and been funded by the government. That has also been curtailed, and that's been the subject. That work has been the subject of other litigation.
How do we tell our firms to fight the administration's attack on law firms?
Say that again, Angela, I missed it.
Sorry, how do we tell our firms to fight the administration's attacks on law firms?
Yeah, I think it's I mean, this is a debate going on in a number of law firms around the country. I've talked to many of them, and a number of firms, I think maybe 700 or 800 individual lawyers or firms have added on into the friends amicus briefs in the Perkins. I think it's gotten a lot of press. There are retired judges that filed amicus. I think there's deans that have filed amicus. I think it's important to talk to people in your firm, especially at management, what position you want to take. I'm not going to purport to tell everybody what firm should do what given the circumstances, but it is important to say, yeah, we can sit and do nothing. We can say nothing, or we can talk about what are the real issues. What part are people not in favor of? Are you in favor of impeaching judges? Because you don't like a decision they've made? Of course. I mean, I haven't liked every judge I've ever been in front of. I didn't like every decision they made. I mean, some of them are 20 years old and I still don't like them. But I mean, I don't ever advocate impeaching a judge, for God's sakes. And so that's one question. And number two, do you want to add some more system that you can't represent anybody the government doesn't approve of? Who wants to have their lawyer knocked out of a case midway? And I think that's what lawyers have to really come to grips with and talk about and have intelligent talks, not about, oh, gee, this will pass, I want to let it go. I think we've got to stand up and really engage people. And I talked about you, okay, what part of this don't you like? What part of what we're saying don't you like? And tell me, and I'm glad to have those debates and discussions, because so often it just evolves into, well, you didn't speak 10 years ago, or you did this 20 years ago, or I don't like your position on this. I mean, I chaired the House of Delegates. It's 550 people from every bar association in the country. If you've served in the House long enough, you don't agree with everything it's done. Okay, you don't agree with every position. But and that's true in the legislature. That's true in the court. I mean, the dissenters in Maine Supreme Court don't quit because they dissented. The people in the legislature and Congress don't quit or don't say, hey, I'm gonna get out of Congress because I'm in the minority. No, you get up and you get back in there again and again. I think that the crisis of today shows us why the voice of a profession, why the ABA is so important, why the House of Delegates is important. There are some things we're not going to agree on, okay? Some things you're disagreeing on in Maine. Some things Missouri lawyers won't see it like Maine lawyers do. That's okay. But what unites us is more important than anything else. And I say that in my own personal situation. My wife and I were married 45 years before she died. I mean, we didn't agree on everything, but we believed that the importance of what we agreed on was more important than things we disagreed with. And I think that's where the bar is, and it has to be.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. This one is actually a couple people have asked this in various ways here. How is the ABA preparing for what now feels like a grave certainty that the executive's direct defiance of a lawful order of the judiciary?
Yeah, obviously the news is full of those stories. I mean, I watch it. I used to tell my kids, don't look at the news for more than 5 minutes. Now I find that I'm about 24 hours, I'm watching the news. Maybe 5 minutes, I'm not watching the news. So I am seeing that. I mean, we're doing a lot of planning. We're trying to be strategic, okay? We can't speak every day, but when are we going to speak? And we are very concerned about what's happening and are making a variety of plans. I don't really want to go into them all here because some of them, will, but I mean, we are not going to be sleeping on what we're doing. We're going to be vigilant on this. Do I know it's risky to speak? Yes. Is this the year I wanted as ABA president? Of course not. But this is the year we have, and we got to deal with it. And are there risks? Yeah, sometimes at midnight, I'm worried about what's going to happen in my firm or with my family, or what's going to happen with all of our employees and the people we're affecting in the ABA. I mean, it's a lot to weigh on. But I mean, at some point, I guess, number one, you got to kind of put some of that aside. And without being religious, I sometimes got to say, God, you got to take care of that. I got to control what I can control in front of me. And so in the morning, you wake up and say, I'm going to resolve to do what's right. I mean, we're going to do what's right, even when there's risk to us. I mean, are we concerned about when there's clear violations of court orders? Yeah. Yes, I'm real concerned. And, but we've got to do our part. Can I make everything right? No. You know, do I hope the legislators in Washington and every state are going to do what's right? Yes. Am I supporting the courts and I'm looking for the courts to do what's right? Yes, I am. But I think we have to do what's right in every little corner of our world where we're at.
I'm sorry we're not getting to every single question, but I think we have time for one more. How is the ABA reacting to threats of nonprofit funding which support legal service organizations, civil legal aid, public defender programs?
Well, I mean, we were just in Washington for ABA Day, and we've been up there for decades, and the work we've done over the years counts. I mean, we're up there pushing for legal services. We've got to have funding for legal services. It's critical. Was 400 or 500 million 20 years ago. It's still 400 or 500 million, but that's money is really, really important. And we were lobbying people. I was lobbying with people that, you know, US senators who wrote me letters that were less than flattering. Okay. But I still was there and well received. They know the important work legal services is doing. And so I think part of the challenge here is we have to be faithful to our principles and stand up for what's right in some of the things that are going on, but we also have to be faithful to what matters in legal services and in help for people. I mean, the public defender crisis is real in so many states. We cannot be less than vigilant. So we can't let one overbear the other. We have to do all these things. I mean, it's a little bit like running from stick to stick with plates spinning on a stick and keeping them going. And that's why it really requires, that's why I love this call. I mean, it's people say, what's the president doing? What's the president doing of the ABA? It takes a huge team of effort. What we're doing takes a team of people. I can't do it all. And we're going to have a bigger and bigger team to do things if we're going to get through this challenge to our profession and legal services.
Well, thank you, President Bay, for joining us today. Obviously, you are very busy and have a number of things to do in your time, so we appreciate you taking the time and speaking with our organization today. I just want to let all of our members know that the Maine State Bar Association has issued a rule of law statement, which can be found on our website. We also did join the joint statement along with other bar organizations, and this is a topic that we will stay on top of. And if any of our members have suggestions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. And a big thank you to President Bay.
Well, thank you. And again, if you have suggestions, I mean, forward them on to me. On my email is there's ABA president email, but wbay@thompsoncoburn.com. You can probably find me on Google. Many people I didn't want to find me have found me. But it's okay. You know, one of the big issues here is listening to people and hearing suggestions. Sometimes the best idea comes from the back row, from the person that's just coming the first time. So please don't think we have every answer. We don't. But collectively as a profession, I think we will have the right answers.
Thank you again. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.